I arrived on Verath as a gust of bitter wind lashed against my face, carrying the scent of decay and endings. This world, once vibrant and whole, now lay fractured and fading. The ether barriers that cradled its reality were unraveling, allowing the oppressive tendrils of another dimension to seep through like a suffocating fog. The once brilliant skies had dulled to a dismal gray. The ground beneath me shuddered with the groans of a world on the precipice of dissolution. Verath had been a beacon of life and beauty, a testament to what the confluence of dimensions could create when kept within the embrace of the ether. Now it was reduced to echoes of its former self, a place where the light had dimmed and shadows lengthened with each passing moment. I felt the tug of lost hopes and forgotten joys in the very air, a mournful symphony played by a world pleading for salvation. But I was no savior, not anymore. I was the last of the ether walkers, a solitary warden amidst the ruins of time, carrying the burden of my own failure. I raised my right hand, the one swathed in a coat woven from crystallized ether shards, their luminosity muted yet present, a testament to the power once wielded by my kind. The shards reacted to the proximity of the dimensional bleed, vibrating softly, their resonance a dirge for a dying world. In my left hand, I clutched the resonance fork, its metal cool and familiar, my constant companion in these forsaken lands. The pitch it now hummed resonated with a frequency that screamed of the imminent collapse. I walked through the skeletal remains of what had been a flourishing city, its structures standing like mourners at a funeral. The streets were empty, save for the whispers of the past, ghosts of laughter, and life now carried away by the winds that cut through the silent edifices. I stepped over scattered remnants, fragment of lives once lived, now abandoned to the relentless decay of the ash. Each footfall felt like a sacrilege upon sacred ground, a reminder that I had arrived too late, just as I always seem to. As I continued, the landscape around me began to shimmer with the eerie luminescence of the encroaching dimension. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before my eyes, threads of ether dissolving into nothingness, revealing the chaos lying beneath. I could see it with my blue eye, the eye of ether sight, perceiving the beauty and the horror of the dimensions in their naked truth. My gray eye, the eye of ash sight, saw only the encroaching void, the death that would claim all should I falter. And then I saw her, a small figure amidst the debris, a fragile ember caught in the storm. She was huddled against the remnants of a wall, her form trembling, yet defiantly still. A child impossibly alive in this place of endings. Her presence was an anomaly, a single note of life in a symphony of demise. I approached her cautiously, wary of the tricks of a dying world. She turned her gaze upon me, and the breath caught in my throat. Her eyes were a piercing ether blue, the very color of the energy that once bound our worlds together. It was a sight both familiar and utterly confounding. Those eyes were the eyes of the ancient order, of those who had been lost to the ashen collapse. Yet here they were, impossibly in the face of this child. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice a fragile echo against the ruins. I hesitated, the weight of centuries pressing down upon me. How could I explain to this child the history that coursed through my veins, the devastating truth of what I was? "I am the last of something that should have saved you sooner," I finally replied, my voice heavy with the sorrow of truths unspoken. Her gaze did not waver, a testament to the strength that lay within her small frame. "Why didn't you?" A simple question, yet loaded with the burden of my failures and regrets. Because I was not enough, I admitted, the words tasting of ash and old wounds. Once there were many of us, the Aether walkers, guardians of the barriers between worlds. But we were lost to the collapse, a cataclysm I could not prevent. She nodded as if understanding, though I doubted she could truly grasp the enormity of what had been lost. But there was no accusation in her eyes, only a quiet acceptance that was somehow more painful than scorn. I crouched beside her, extending my hand. "Come with me, child. We must leave this place before it's too late." "What will happen to my world?" she asked, her voice a quiver of hope and despair. I could offer no comfort, only the raw truth. It will end, as all things do, but out of endings come beginnings. She took my hand, her fingers small and warm against my own, and together we rose from the shadows of Verath. The resonance fork hummed with increased urgency, the vibrations growing more chaotic as the world began its final descent into the abyss. I could feel the weight of its impending end pressing upon us, the very air growing thick with the resistance of shattered dimensions. We moved through the city, a specter and a child, towards the place where the barriers were thin enough for me to open a passage. The girl's presence beside me was a peculiar balm against the encroaching despair, a living reminder of what had once been. As we walked, I could sense her curiosity, her silent questions echoing in the space between us. "How did you survive?" I asked, not expecting an answer, but feeling compelled to breach the silence. "I don't know," she replied softly. "I just woke up, and everything was different." Her words resonated with a truth I had long feared, that the ashen collapse had left more than just physical scars across the dimensions. There had been something else, a lingering echo of the walker's power perhaps, or a new force born from the chaos. At last we reached the edge of the city, where the fabric of the Aether was thinnest. I raised the resonance fork, its tone shifting to a piercing crescendo, a key to unlock the dimensional door. The ground beneath us trembled with the effort, the air crackling with energy as I tore open a passage through the Aether. "Don't look back," I told her. "There is nothing for you in the past, only what lies ahead." She nodded, her hand clutching mine with a strength that belied her size. As we stepped through the passage, the world behind us began its final unraveling, threads of Aether snapping like the taut strings of a doomed melody. And then, as we emerged into a new dimension, the weight of Verath's demise slipped from my shoulders, only to be replaced by the inexorable weight of what lay before us. In this new realm, there were no guarantees, only possibilities. I glanced at the girl, her ether blue eyes scanning our surroundings with a mix of fear and wonder. Those eyes, an impossibility, a connection to the past that should not exist. "Who are you?" I asked, echoing her earlier question, a shiver of recognition in my voice. She looked at me, a small smile playing upon her lips, and for a moment I saw the future reflected in her gaze, a future where the Aether might yet weave hope from the ashes. And in that moment, I dared to believe that perhaps, together, we could find a way to mend what was broken. In her eyes lay the last ember of a forgotten legacy, and with it, the faint promise of redemption. As the passage closed behind us, sealing the fate of Verath, I knew our journey had only just begun. If this story pulled you in, you know what to do. Hit that like button. It helps more wanderers find their way to Aether and Ash.